Oh, we've got some interesting sources. Excerpts from 5 chapters. The Security Room, Unravel, Beneath the Surface, Forces in Motion, and Shadows Among Us.
And these chapters, they lay out a situation that, well, it seems to start simple. A potential crime spotted on a monitor.
But it escalates fast. The security officer's watching. They suddenly become the focus.
And from that point, we get drawn into this whole story around Jack Rickson and his mother, Rita. It's a lot. A murder arrest, an escape, the FBI showing up.
Right.
Quite the sequence.
So our mission here is to unpack that first incident, the one in the security room, and really trace how it connects, how it seemingly triggers everything else that happens with Jack and Rita.
We want to see that initial spark and, the chain reaction.
And you can see the hook immediately, can't you? What looks like a simple robbery watch. It just blows up. Hints of something bigger, hidden forces, so many questions right from the start.
Definitely intriguing.
Okay, let's dive in. What exactly went down in that security room?
So it starts with 2 security officers. We'll call them Officer 1 and Officer 2. They're just doing their job, watching the monitors.
Right.
And Officer 1 spots something. He thinks it's a robbery. A man, dark clothes, light gray fedora, pointing a gun at a woman in a light blue sedan.
Okay, pretty clear potential crime scene. What do they do?
Well, Officer 2 tells Officer 1 to go investigate, standard procedure, while he calls the police.
Makes sense. But you said it escalates.
Right. As Officer 1 opens the door to go out, he's stopped immediately. 2 very large men in black jackets are right there, blocking his way.
Blocking him? How?
One wedges his foot in the door. There's this sense of real intimidation. They're not asking politely, It's forceful.
Wow. Okay. And Officer 2, the one making the call.
He's about to hit the panic button, but one of the intruders just gives him this low-voiced threat. Basically, don't do that. They clearly want this contained. No official alert.
So what do they want, if not to rob the place?
They want security footage.
Yeah.
Specifically from 2 weeks prior. And it's interesting, the text mentions they express a desire for it. Like it's really important to them.
Okay. Footage of what?
Well, they have the officers review the footage. About 15 minutes in, they tell Officer 2 to pause.
And what's on the screen?
Shows a man, athletic build, gray jacket, blue sweatshirt. We later learn this is Jack Rickson, and he's carefully carrying a large rug wrapped in plastic into an underground apartment complex.
A rug?
Yeah, then he loads it into a rented van. There's a quick interaction with a neighbor, a guy named George. You even hear the key fob beep as Jack unlocks the van. Then George walks off towards an elevator. Jack drives away.
That sounds incredibly normal, almost boring.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It seems totally unremarkable. Why that specific moment? Why the rug? That's the puzzle.
So they watch this seemingly random footage, and then what?
Then they get ready to leave. But first, they deliver this warning. They tell the officers, basically, broadcast this, tell anyone, and there will be consequences. Forget it happened, and we disappear.
They just threaten them. Officer 1 points that out, right? They're leaving witnesses.
He does. But their response is just blatant gaslighting. They claim no gun was seen, no threats were made, just a flat denial of what literally just happened.
Wow. Okay. That's bold. What happens right after they leave?
Well, Officer 1 is told to clean up. But then he makes this secret phone call. Uses a hidden phone.
Cool.
We don't know who. But he asks about someone named Rita. And he reports that some people just showed interest in Jack. And then he throws out this theory he thinks Jack is connected to the Russian mafia.
The Russian mafia. Where does he get that idea? Seems like a huge jump.
It really does. And the call ends super abruptly. The person on the other end just says, it means it's not your problem anymore.
Whoa. Okay, that's a massive red flag. Who is he talking to? Who gets to decide it's not his problem?
Exactly. It suggests he's reporting to someone and that someone has some kind of authority or involvement.
But Officer 1 himself, he raises the key question, doesn't he?
He does. The one that hangs over everything. How do they know the man's name is Jack?
Right. Because that implies they weren't random. They knew who they were looking for, or at least whose footage they needed. That's the real hook.
Precisely. It suggests prior knowledge, specific targeting.
Okay, so that's the security room incident. It's weird, it's intimidating, and it centers on Jack Rickson. How does Jack himself enter the picture directly?
Well, the narrative shifts to Jack's perspective. We see him at work. He's a programmer. Seems pretty tech-focused, typical office vibe. And then his day gets derailed by this really strange phone call. A deep voice just says, "We know what you did to Oscar," and hangs up.
Oscar? Who's Oscar? And just hangs up.
Yep. No explanation. It's abrupt, cryptic and instantly unsettling for Jack. His reaction is immediate. He becomes hyper-aware, looking over his shoulder, basically.
I bet. That's incredibly unnerving. Does he try calling back?
He does, but all he hears is a chuckle on the other end. So it wasn't a wrong number. It feels very intentional, very menacing. What did he supposedly do to Oscar? We have no idea at this point.
And does anything else happen?
Well, he gets a couple of normal calls after that.
Mm-hmm.
His mom, Rita, calls about a family dinner, says his girlfriend, Laura, is already heading over.
Okay, normal life trying to intrude.
Right. But Jack's clearly distracted. That Oscar call is weighing on him, even as he tries to get back to his coding. It's like a shadow hanging over him.
Then he leaves work.
Yeah, later on. And as he's leaving, he clocks a black SUV and a silver car parked nearby. It makes him nervous.
Given the phone call, I'd be nervous too.
Totally. He sees some colleagues leaving too, which maybe makes him feel slightly less targeted for a moment, but still. Then, driving home, bang, burst tire.
Oh, come on. Just bad luck or...
Well, that's the thing. Almost immediately after the tire bursts, a tow truck shows up. Like, suspiciously fast.
Okay, yep, that is suspicious.
Jack definitely thinks so. The text says he looks at the tow truck driver with distrust. They tow him to a workshop, the tire gets fixed really quickly, and Jack's just eager to get going, get to his mom's place for that dinner.
Right, because Laura's supposed to be there already.
Exactly. But when he gets there, it's not a family dinner scene. It's chaos.
What does he find?
Police cars everywhere, lights flashing, blood stains visible from the outside. And then he sees his mother, Rita.
Oh, no.
She's just standing there in the middle of it all, blood on her clothes.
And
she's holding a knife.
Holding a knife? Oh, my God.
She's arrested right then and there for multiple counts of murder.
Multiple counts, wow. And how is she acting? Is she distraught, panicked?
That's the truly bizarre part. She's described as calm, almost, serene. As the police lead her away in handcuffs, she actually looks at Jack, gives him this small nod, and even a little smile.
A smile? After being arrested for multiple murders, that doesn't track at all. That's deeply unsettling.
It really is. It's not the reaction you'd expect at all. What does that smile mean? Is it relief, defiance, something else entirely?
And didn't we mention some guys watching the security room earlier?
The ones in the SUV.
Yes.
They're still around. They're parked nearby, watching this whole scene at Rita's house unfold.
So they followed Jack. Or they were waiting. What did he do?
After Rita's taken away, they make a phone call. In Russian. They confirm Rita's been arrested, and then say something like they intend to take care of his mother too.
Take care of her too. Okay, so that confirms the link back to the security room. These guys are involved. And the Russian connection seems real, not just Officer One's guess.
It strongly suggests a coordinated effort, yeah, and potentially international links.
So Rita's arrested under these incredibly shocking and weird circumstances. What happens with the actual police investigation?
Well, they try to interrogate Rita, but she's a brick wall. Detective Willstrom is questioning her, and she's just silent. Flat effect, no response whatsoever.
So he can't get anything out of her?
Nothing. He starts to suspect she might be faking the shock, or maybe just deliberately stonewalling him.
Okay. What about neighbors? Anyone see anything?
Willstrom talks to other officers who canvassed the neighborhood. The general feeling they got from the neighbors was that Rita, quote, might have snapped from being under so much pressure.
Snapped. Like a sudden breakdown. Does Willstrom buy that?
He seems uncertain, but the assistant district attorney, A.D.A. Thompson, she's definitely skeptical.
Why? What's her take?
She finds the whole snapped theory hard to swallow, like someone just loses it, commits multiple murders, then calmly cleans up or hides bodies. It doesn't quite add up logically for her. She insists on a proper psychological evaluation for Rita.
Makes sense, especially legally.
Right. So Detective Willstrom takes Rita to see a psychologist, Dr. Annie Welsh.
Okay, maybe Dr. Welsh can get through to her. How does that go?
Initially, Rita's described as tense, withdrawn. She gives Dr. Welsh this kind of fragmented story, mentions an argument, feeling like she was always walking on eggshells, and then things get blurry. Next thing she knows, she's in handcuffs.
So still not a clear picture. A gap in her memory? Or is she claiming a gap?
It's hard to say. Dr. Walsh takes a very supportive approach, tries to make her feel safe. Rita does express feeling lost. And apparently after the session, she seems calmer.
Calmer how?
Like she willingly lets them put the handcuffs back on. But Detective Willstrom, who's watching this, he picks up on something. Again, another little smile from Rita that seems off, out of place. He's clearly suspicious of her whole act.
He doesn't trust her demeanor.
Not at all. And then his suspicions get a massive boost. He gets a call from forensics, Amy Splash, the specialist.
What did forensics find?
The blood. The blood found all over Rita's truck.
Yeah.
It's not human.
Not human? Then what is it?
Pig blood.
Pig blood. Okay, wait, that changes everything. The whole crime scene. It might have been staged.
Exactly. It throws the entire narrative into question. What actually happened at that house? Why stage a scene with pig blood?
So does Willstrom confront Rita with this?
He does. As they're driving back from the psych eval, he tells her they know about the pig blood.
And her reaction?
Her only reaction described is she just braces herself, like she's expecting something.
And does something happen?
Oh, yeah. Suddenly, bam! Their police car is violently rammed by a truck.
Rammed? Seriously?
Yeah. Willstrom is knocked unconscious instantly. Rita apparently only gets minor injuries. Seems very targeted, doesn't it?
Incredibly targeted. Who rammed them?
Before anyone can really react, a silver truck pulls up.
Mm-hmm.
Heavily armed men jump out. They quickly move to tranquilize the other officers who arrived as backup.
They tranquilized the cops.
Yep. But here's a key detail. They don't tranquilize Detective Willstrom. He's already out cold from the crash.
Yeah. Huh. That's specific. Maybe just because he was already unconscious. Or something else.
It's a question mark. Then, these armed men pull Rita out of the wrecked police car and take her away.
They just abduct her. Right from police custody.
Exactly. It's a full-on extraction.
Wow. Okay. What happens when Willstrom comes to?
More police have arrived by then. He wakes up, assesses the scene, and his immediate conclusion, he says it out loud, Rita Rickson is a sociopath.
Yeah.
But he also seems to register that weird detail that he wasn't tranquilized like the others.
Yeah, that would stick in your mind. So what now? Rita's gone.
He gets a very tense call from ADA Thompson. She is understandably furious that a suspected multiple murderer has just been broken out of custody. And she mentions there's been another development.
Another one. What now?
She tells him to come to her office. When Willstrom gets there, AD Thompson isn't alone. There's a new player. FBI Special Agent Anthony Martin.
Ah, the FBI. That usually means things just got a lot bigger.
Absolutely. And Agent Martin makes that clear right away. He's dismissive, almost condescending, basically tells Willstrom and Thompson, you guys are off the case.
Just like that, takes it over.
Yep. He implies it's way above their pay grade now. And then he drops a name. Richard Shield.
Richard Shield. Who's that?
Martin says, Richard Shield, a.k.a., and then he just stops.
Yeah.
Trails off. Doesn't finish the name or alias.
He's baiting them.
Right.
Or just withholding information.
Feels like a power play, doesn't it? Hinting at something big, someone important, but keeping them completely in the dark. Who is Richard Shield and why is the FBI suddenly involved because of him or Rita or both?
So Willstrom is off the case. Rita's gone. The FBI's in charge. What does Willstrom do?
He's clearly frustrated, sidelined. He decides to go talk to Dr. Welsh, the psychologist who evaluated Rita.
Ah, right. What does he want from her?
He basically confronts her. Why didn't she see it? Why didn't she flag Rita as a potential sociopath, given everything that's happened? He's angry, needs answers.
Understandable frustration. What does Dr. Welsh say?
Her explanation is interesting. She says Rita wasn't necessarily lying, but she was telling a story, a narrative. Maybe not the whole truth of what actually happened that day, but her perception or what she wanted to present.
So Rita was manipulating the session.
Dr. Welch suggests that whatever Willstrom thinks he knows about Rita, it's incomplete. She actually calls Rita a mystery.
A mystery. So even the psychologist couldn't pin her down. That reinforces the idea that Rita is something else, not just someone who snapped.
Exactly. It adds another layer of complexity to Rita herself.
Okay, so Rita's escaped. The FBI's involved. Willstrom's suspicious but sidelined. What about Jack? Where is he in all this?
Well, in the immediate aftermath, Detective Willstrom is dealing with a media storm over Rita's escape. He talks with ADA Thompson. They're both worried about the FBI just swooping in.
Right.
And there's this little note about another detective, David Adar, returning to work. Might be nothing, might be something later.
Okay, noted. Does Willstrom try to find Jack?
He actually goes to Jack's apartment building, tries talking to neighbors. But it's weird. Everyone gives him the brush off. Negative responses, evasiveness, like they don't want to talk about Jack or Rita at all.
A fearful community. Or maybe complicit.
Hard to tell. Then Jack himself comes home. He looks a mess, disheveled, stressed out. Even the building superintendent acts really nervous riding up in the elevator with him.
So people are definitely acting strangely around him.
Oh, yeah. He bumps into his neighbors, George and Sierra, and the interaction is super awkward, strained. Then he finds Detective Willstrom's business card slipped under his door.
So now Jack knows the police are trying to reach him specifically.
Right, and you can imagine, with the Oscar call, his mom's arrest. Finding that card probably sends his paranoia into overdrive. He suspects something much bigger is going on.
Does he try to contact Willstrom?
He does. He even goes down to the police station. He tells them Rita's his mother. He's worried, wants to know what's happening, but they just shut him down. Deny him access, say Willstrom will call him.
So, stonewalled again. What happens when he goes back home?
It gets even weirder with the neighbors. George literally won't open his door to him. He notices several apartments on his floor seem suddenly vacant. Another neighbor, Amanda, just slams her door in his face.
Wow, he's being completely ostracized, isolated.
Totally. And then Detective Willstrom shows up at his apartment, unannounced this time.
Finally, they talk. What happens?
It's a pretty brief, guarded conversation. Jack recounts finding the blood, mentions Laura might have been there earlier. Willstrom asks a few questions, but he doesn't tell Jack about the pig blood or Rita's escape or the FBI. He keeps Jack in the dark.
Why? Protecting him or using him?
We don't know yet. After that visit, things just spiral for Jack. The next 3 months are described as total isolation, neighbors avoiding him, creating this hostile environment.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. It gets so bad, he decides he has to move out. And his conversation with his old landlord is telling. Landlord basically admits he's been wanting Jack out for months because he's making things hostile for everyone else.
Yeah.
Essentially blaming Jack for the fallout from Rita's situation.
So Jack is paying the price for whatever his mother did or whatever people think she did?
Seems like it. He finds a new place, is packing up, and there's one last really unsettling encounter.
Oh, with who?
His neighbor, Patrick. Jack sees Patrick receive this letter. And Patrick lets Jack see it, or Jack sees it somehow. It's signed just GM.
GM. What does the letter say?
It instructs Patrick to watch Jack. Keep a close eye on him. And if Jack, quote, acts out, Patrick is supposed to take him to someone called the executive board.
Acts out. Executive board. GM. Okay, that's deeply creepy. Who is GM? What's executive board? And what counts as acting out?
Exactly. It introduces this whole other layer of surveillance, shadowy figures, unknown organizations, all focused on Jack. It's incredibly ominous.
So let's just recap this whole deep dive. We started in a security room with intimidation focused on footage of Jack Rickson moving a rug.
Right. Then Jack gets the weird Oscar call, finds his mother, Rita, arrested amidst pig blood after acting strangely calm.
Then Rita is abducted from police custody by armed men after a staged car crash, just as the FBI, led by Agent Martin, takes over the case, mentioning a mysterious Richard Shield.
Meanwhile, Jack is increasingly isolated, treated like a pariah by his neighbors, and finally we learn he's under surveillance by someone named Patrick, acting on instructions from GM for an executive board.
Phew. Okay. The central mystery is still that connection, right? How does that initial security room incident, that rug footage, tie into Rita's actions, the pig blood, the abduction, the FBI, Richard Shield, and now this executive board watching Jack?
It feels like all these threads have to be connected, but the how and why are still completely opaque. It seems like a ripple effect from that initial moment spreading outwards in really unexpected ways.
For me, the big aha moments, or maybe wait, what moments, were definitely the pig blood that just reframes Rita's entire arrest scene.
Yeah, that was a huge twist.
And the FBI just barging in, mentioning Richard Shield, that signals this is way bigger than a local murder case.
Definitely raises the stakes.
And then that final letter to Patrick, GM, the executive board, acts out. It just screams conspiracy and hidden control. Who are these people?
It really deepens the intrigue around Jack specifically.
Which brings us to that final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. What could Jack Rickson have possibly done, or what does someone think he did related to that rug maybe, or Oscar, to warrant this level of intense interest from, well, multiple shadowy groups, the Russians maybe, the FBI, these GM people?
And who is Richard Shield? Is he connected to Jack?
Yeah.
To Rita? To the executive board? And what is this board, anyway? It feels like we've peeled back one layer only to find many, many more beneath the surface. There's clearly a much larger and potentially far more dangerous.
Welcome to The Deep Dive, the show